If you are doing that at the moment in the horrors, seeing the horrors, can't look away from the horrors, remember the joy as well, the smiling joy, the gentle cosmic joke of it all. Hello friends, John Dalton here, Further Emergence podcast, where we go into consciousness, love and the mystery. And in this episode we're going into
despair and consciousness, reclaiming your attention, and practical laughter.
I read somewhere that there's an epidemic of despair, particularly among young people. And while that's very sad, it also occurred to me that there's a correlation between the amount of consciousness that's going on, the raising of consciousness. So if you're despairing, obviously do all the things that you need to take care of your mental health, like the rest of us. But it may not be completely just your mental health. Because we're in a world that is not that interested in consciousness. So if you are, it's very disturbing. It's very disturbing to look around and be conscious and see through the curtain a little bit and realize that everybody's behaving as if everything is fine. And it's obviously not fine. Everybody's behaving as if we're very sophisticated and we're very, we're doing great things. And in one way we are, but then another way we're not. So the despair that you feel is part of the process. You kind of go through it. And it's very difficult. So I wouldn't underestimate it or undermine yourself with going, oh well, I've got a mental health problem. Yes, you might have a mental health problem. You might need all the support that comes with that. But also, don't rule out the fact that it's to do with you being more conscious. You're seeing things. You're seeing things that other people are just numb to or have made themselves numb to. And you can't. You just can't turn away. You can't forget. You can't not see. You can't not feel. And that's okay. You will learn to live with it. It's a matter of focus, what you focus on. Because the spiritual life looks great on paper. We've all seen the statues, the Buddhas, the peace, the harmony. So when you start to become more conscious, and you feel this deep despair and this heartbreak for humanity, for your friends, for your loved ones, just for people you've never met. So it's not so it doesn't look so good, It's not like where's the serenity, where's the peace? And it's there, but you can go through this. They call it the dark night of the soul, they call it different things. But I think this thing of despair that I was reading about, I think quite a bit of that is to do with that a lot of younger people are becoming more conscious. And with consciousness initially comes a kind of despair. But if you don't know what's happening, you can just feel like it's just normal despair. It's just like everybody else. And it might be. But if you're listening to me, probably not. It's probably to do with consciousness. And as I say, do take care of yourself. Like get enough sleep, exercise, do all the things that everybody else has to do for their mental health. But then also know that what you're dealing with is consciousness, and you're growing consciousness. And that all the things that are breaking your heart, it's justified. There's a lot of heartbreaking things going on. And it's not because they're terrible, even though they are terrible. It's because you're seeing unconsciousness at work. You're seeing what happens, or people growing in a way. Because even though things look terrible, and every generation feels like, oh, this is the worst it's ever been. Every generation feels like that. And you could go, no, we've never had threats like this before. It's like, well, okay, you can think like that, but you don't have to look at history, and every generation feels the same. Like things are really bad in a way they've never been before. So you can feel that. But what you're feeling, the despair, I think a lot of that has to do with seeing unconsciousness. I'm not telling you how you feel. I'm just telling you my experience of what I went through. And it's not like it goes away. It's not like, oh, I don't have any, I don't register the despair at all. I feel it. I feel it very keenly. I don't watch the news. I don't go looking for it, but it finds me. I hear about things. And it's heartbreaking. I'm heartbroken for the people that the things are being done to, and the people who are doing those things. I'm heartbroken for them all, because I know it's just unconsciousness at work. And a lot of people it's just business as usual. And that can be very disturbing. So, have a look. Have a look if it is to do with your unconsciousness and with you becoming more conscious. And keep going. Keep going with your consciousness further and further. Because it's not, as I say, it's not like you're trapped in the despair forever. It's there, but then you also move into, well, what do I do about it? Now the answer to that question is different for different people. For some people, they're very moved to physically go and do something about whatever it is that they see. And that will be down to your particular configuration. And it's very important I think, to know what your configuration is, because everybody's different. And for some people, as I say, it will be all about going and doing stuff, but not for everybody. Not everybody is going to go and do things. You have to do what you're moved to do. And how you find out what you're moved to do is by knowing yourself and by being still and meditating, getting to know your inner landscape. But if you're not moved to do anything externally, that doesn't mean you can't do anything. Remember, you're living in a dream. In the virtual reality metaphor, it's all pixels, and it's all coming out of you. So you can learn how to change the story, change the pixels. There's a lot you can do inside because it's so believable, isn't it? This thing that we're all in. And it feels like you're just a little insignificant person on a planet. But I encourage you to check your experience. Are you looking out into a big world, or are you looking into a little screen-like reality? When you think of it like that, you can kind of go, oh, okay, yes, I can do something here. It's very similar to, video games. I don't play video games, but I've seen people with the headsets on and seen inside it, and it looks very believable and very three-dimensional, just like this does. So you can begin to learn how to change it. Change it in little small ways that are meaningful for you. Start small. Don't try and hit a big target, or don't try and hit a target that's very far away from you. Bring the target very close so you can definitely hit it. So instead of starting off with world peace or ending a particular conflict or situation, start off with something really small that you can hit. I use money because it's measurable. I can't kid myself about it. If I want to see if I can change the story a little bit, I don't start off with millions and millions of euro. Start off with 10. I wonder, can I bring 10 euro to me today? But it doesn't have to be money. It can be anything. It can be flour. It can be a phone call. Start with something that you can believe in. Start with something very small that you can definitely feel like you can believe could happen. And hit that target a few times before you begin to move it. And don't move it too far. Just move it a little bit back further. So if it's 10 euro today, make it 20 euro next week. If it's 1 rose today, make it 2 roses next week, and so on. Figure out how to change the story from the inside. You can do something about it. Everything here is kind of geared up to make you feel like you can't, which is part of the fun. It's part of the game. So feeling the despair is a kind of, you're not seeing what's inside you being reflected outside you. You're not seeing what's inside you being reflected in existence or in the pixels in the story. Because what you are on the inside is lovely. You don't want anybody to be hurt. You don't want any tree to be chopped down that doesn't need to be. You don't want any animal to be killed that doesn't need to be. And do any animals need to be killed? I don't think so. But that's me. What you'll find, though, is that the despair is that the external existence, what we called external, it's actually internal. You're looking into it. But anyway, I won't get too confusing about it. It doesn't reflect you on the inside. That's where the despair comes from. So seeing that and beginning to focus on changing it in the way that I was saying. I mean, if you want to, as I say, if you move to go and do things in existence, great, go and do those. But if you're not, don't be kind of like, oh, I'm not going to go and protest. I'm not going to go and run for Congress. I'm not going to do anything. Now I feel even worse. There's a lot you can do on the inside. A lot. But it takes practice, and it requires a lot of engaging from this very believable existence. In order to change it, you have to see it for what it is. So my book, The Gentle Snap, is very good for beginning to see that process, beginning to see through the gaps in existence. And as I say, learn how to do it very gently. The people who are very interested in manifestation are very onto a lot of this. Now their focus is on, you know, money and or love or whatever, and that's all fine. But just speaking to this thing of despair, if you focus on what it is that is not being reflected in existence and what you'd like to bring into existence, then you can use something tangible to build up your confidence and to build up your belief that it will work, or that you're, you know, to give yourself confidence. Hit the target you can hit, make it close, make it possible, and then you can go for the bigger things over time. So, and keep going with your spiritual and your journey in consciousness, because it will continue to inform you. Despair is just part of it, and it will find its place in the bigger journey that you're in. So yeah, if you are despairing, I feel for you. I've been there and I kind of am there, but there's a lot you can do. So be of good cheer.
Now let's have a look at a couple of memes from the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one says, "Your attention is your power. When we focus on things that frustrate or annoy us, we give that situation or person our power. You can take it back at any moment. Take your attention and place it somewhere that feels good."
This is a kind of follow-on from what I was talking about earlier on about despair, and you can do something about it. It's very easy to kind of feel like our attention, to not realize that we have control over our attention, and that we can take it back if we've put it in the wrong place, or if we put it in an unhappy place, or we've put it in a place that makes us miserable. Then we don't have to keep doing that. We can take it back. We can change it, because it's very much like, you know, I'm out in the middle of the country at the moment, and I can sort of focus on what's right in front of me, what's a little bit ahead of me, or what's in the distance. It's just a matter of focus, and it's the same with attention. But you have to remember to do it, because particularly to do with information and online, it's not passive. It's trying to get your attention. Everything is trying to get your attention. Whether it's trying to get your attention to sell you something, or to sell you an idea, or to agree with you, or to get you to watch some content. I mean, I have a very small taste of it with the different videos and things I make. And when you watch any, like, how to get found on YouTube, or how to get 6 million followers on Instagram, a lot of it boils down to manipulation. So sad to say, but it's true. A lot of it just boils down to manipulation, and here's how to trick people into liking your posts or following you, or that kind of thing. I mean, even the language that is used around social media, like about somebody being an influencer, that's all part of, they can influence you because they've got your attention. So it's not passive, and you have to actively do something about it. You have to actively take it away. But it's also, people. You can become kind of hypnotized with people, certain people who sort of manage to convince you that their happiness is your responsibility, when on paper it's not. But in practice, they get your attention. Situations can get your attention. That's what worry is. Worry is like a situation that's got your attention and it won't let go. And for all these things, you have to consciously take charge of where your attention is. Because attention and intention are closely, like one follows behind the other. So if you want to change things, then you have to stop giving your attention to the things that you are not happy about. You know, like if you have a sense of something that's happening, like conspiracies are a good example. It's very easy to develop a conspiracy mentality where it's almost like you want it to happen. You want the terrible thing that you've seen, you want it to happen just to prove to everybody that you were right. When, you know, do you really want to be in that future just to be right? It's like, yeah, but what about all this, what about all this nefarious stuff? There's always been nefarious stuff. There's always been things going on. Now, unless you're willing to go and do something about it, which most of us are not, then focusing on it is going to bring it closer. And yeah, you'll be right. You'll go, look, I told you. But you'll be in a future that you don't want. And if you're going about it from a mystical perspective, from a behind the scenes kind of perspective, which is what I'm talking about now, then you have to pull your attention back from focusing on a future you don't want, even if you are right. And shift your focus to a future that you do want, and continually bring your mind back to the future that you want. Your mind will keep going to the one you don't want because it's trying to protect you. It's, a big part of our mind is about protection. So you can thank it. And thanks for that. But this is the future I'm going to focus on. And I've seen this work in my own experience. It's very vague. You sort of feel like, well, that could have just happened anyway. But that's just your mind trying to minimize what the impact that you have. Because bear in mind, you're living in a dream, but it's a dream you can influence. And it starts with reclaiming your attention and not giving your attention to things that in the future that you don't want to happen. And instead, focus it on a future that you do want to happen. And it takes a lot of discipline, I suppose, to not keep getting pulled in and sucked into all the things you don't want.
And the last one is a quote from Soren Kierkegaard, and it says, "The only intelligent, tactical response to life's horror is to laugh defiantly at it."
So this is taking the cosmic joke and applying it in a very practical way. And why it's practical is because it talks about the horrors of the world. The cosmic joke, it shows up in blooper reels, fail videos. We're pretty silly. We take ourselves way too seriously, that kind of thing. What's been suggested here is that you laugh in the face of life's horrors. That's the only tactical and practical approach. That's taking the cosmic joke and putting it on steroids, or putting it to use, I suppose. And using it as an act of defiance. And what are you defying, really? You're defying your broken heart, which is coming up a lot in this episode. You're using your deep knowledge that this isn't real. This is an illusion. There's an eternal part of you that knows that. That's the part that laughs, because it's quite hard. And it's not like the crazy laughter of, um, you know, it's not hysterical laughter. It's seeing it, feeling the sadness, feeling the heartbreak, and choosing joy. You might say, well, how could you be joyous about this tragic thing? How could there's nothing to be joyful there about it? And that's true. It's heartbreaking. These things are heartbreaking. But past your natural response to those things, past your own little heartbreaking, and feeling the pain and feeling for those people, or feeling for whatever it is, it's very easy to get stuck in a loop of that and to just keep going over it and over it and over it again. And that is like a cycle of despair that just drags you down. Whereas there comes a point when you can kind of go, okay, I felt it. It was awful. It was terrible. Now what? And that's when you start laughing. Not, as I say, crazy laughter, but just the deep laughter of knowing that there is an eternal part of you inside that knows this isn't real. And you touch it every night, you go into deep dreamless sleep and it's all gone, your heartbreak, the horrors, everything. I'm not talking about nightmares. They don't happen in deep dreamless sleep. They happen in, well, either the dream world or the psychic world. I'm talking about deep dreamless sleep, where it all goes. Some part of us knows it all goes. The place we go to in deep dreamless sleep, we know that this is not real. And that what is real is the sort of joy, the mirth. I mean, I find joy is a little bit problematic because it sort of has this connotation of almost euphoria. Whereas for me, I don't so much laugh defiantly at the horrors of life, but I smile. And I mean, it's after I get through being heartbroken, but there's a sort of a smile, a sort of that can develop into laughter. It's like the cliche of a very intense scene. I often reference Steel Magnolias because it's the one that always springs to mind. There's Sally Field. She's just lost her daughter that she's been minding her whole life, her whole daughter's life, because she had, I think it was diabetes or some kind of illness where she, it wasn't just standard. She had to take care of her. She worried about her. She just spent so much time, trying to avoid her dying. And then she meets this guy, and then he wants to have a child, and then the daughter needs a kidney transplant. The mother gives it to her, and after all that, she dies. And she's, Sally Field's character, the mother's heartbroken. And there's this, gut-wrenching scene in the cemetery where she's trying to make sense of it all. And she can't. What was it all for? Why didn't she die? What was the point? Very relatable stuff. What's the point of any of this horror that we face, And then her friend, trying to help her, says this ridiculous thing, she grabs the friend who she's had a long-standing grudge with and pushes her towards her and says, hit her. Hit her. Hit Louisa. And suddenly it breaks. Well, it doesn't. Initially, Sally Field's character is shocked, and then everyone starts to laugh. How can we do that? How can we laugh? Where did the grief go? Where did the horrors go? They didn't go anywhere. They're still there. It's not like she laughed and she suddenly didn't feel heartbroken about her daughter. But where did the laugh come from? It came from knowing something. Just knowing this, how absurdly transient we are, how it all disappears every night. I mean, they wouldn't have put it in those words, but I am. We know all this. And that's what this idea of laughing defiantly at the horrors of the world is about. And it's not something that you can talk yourself into or manufacture. It's something that you feel. And it's not easy to get to, particularly if you're heartbroken. But if you at least know about it, and you can see it when it's there, then you can be open to it. And it has a much higher chance of happening if you're open to it. So, yeah. It's tricky. It is tricky. Because it's easy to kind of get into hysterical laughter. It's easy to get into trying to make yourself happy, or trying to get to this place of, I want to build a cosmic joke because I'm in so much pain. Unfortunately, that doesn't work. So it's a delicate balance. I think it just, all you can do is be open to it and allow yourself to be in touch with that deep part that does know about it, does know about the cosmic joke, and does know about that ultimately joy, the smiling joy, not the hysterical joy, is the only real kind of strategic response, is what this person says. But you know, it's the only antidote to it, or it's the balance to it, is to feel the joy. So if you are doing that at the moment in the horrors, seeing the horrors, can't look away from the horrors, remember the joy as well, the smiling joy, the gentle cosmic joke of it all. Be open to that if you can. Okay, well, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.